So it is the top of the hour. I'd like to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us. Just a quick introduction. I am Sandra Grauschopf. I'm Loxo's Senior Customer Marketing Manager. I'm joined today by Vivian Marin, who is our lead account manager. She's going to be here telling you all about how to increase your email deliverability. We're also joined by Amabir, who is our community manager, as I tried to be a minute ago, but she really is. Among the many things she does with us, she runs the Loxo LinkedIn account. So please go ahead and follow her on LinkedIn because she shares all of the great things we're doing at Loxo, and she's also really funny, so you probably want to follow her. Her LinkedIn is there in the chat in case you don't know us there. We're also joined by Regan Coleman, who is one of our account managers. Regan, Amabir, and myself will be monitoring the chat and helping to answer your questions. We're going to be talking today about email deliverability, as I mentioned. So that's how to make sure that when you reach out to either potential clients or to candidates, that your emails go where they belong. So they don't get blocked or sent into spam folders. And that has to do not only with how you send them, but also the engagement that you get from your emails. So the more people who open your emails, read them, respond to them, the better your deliverability will be overall. So Vivian is going to walk us through a Kahoot game where you can learn how to make your emails more likely to land where they belong. Now, we will be answering questions at the very end of the webinar, so we'll have a half-hour presentation and then 15 minutes for questions. Please be sure to ask in chat or in the Q&A section as you go along as any questions occur to you. Try to make them not so we'll know the context when we read them later. Please make sure your questions are on this topic of the webinar, email deliverability, and that they're applicable to everyone. We can't answer questions about your specific account or your specific situation here in the webinar, but we'd be more than happy to do so if you reach out to support@loxo.co. We're waiting to help you there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Vivian now, and Vivian can take us away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sandra. Hello, everybody. Excited to be doing this with you guys. As Sandra mentioned, this is a fun little Kahoot game. For those of you that don't know, Kahoot is a little game where essentially I will give you the questions and the couple of different answers, and you can pick which one works the best. One thing that I would recommend is if you are working from just one screen, join Kahoot from your phone. The questions will appear on the screen that I am currently sharing. So if you want to gain points for speed, not just accuracy, then I recommend that you have it either on a second screen where you can see the questions and then do the answers, or you can have it on your phone if you're just working from one screen. So I'll give everybody a minute or so to get joined. You can also update your avatar. You can create it and change what animal you are, what accessories you are wearing, and things like that. So yeah, I'll give everybody another minute and then we will get started. The way that Kahoot works is it will, first and foremost, you'll get the most points for the correct answer. And once you have selected the correct answer, speed matters too. So keep that in mind. And with the number of people that we have joining the Kahoot, I think this is going to get really competitive. And yeah. And I'll give I see that a lot of people are still joining, so I'm going to give it another second or so. You can join by going to kahoot.it and then you can enter the game pin. All of that should be on the screen. If you are using your phone, you can scan this QR code and it will let you in. I still see the numbers climbing, so I'll give everybody one more minute and then we'll get started. And you can still continue to join even when we get started. All right, everybody. I'm just going to go ahead and get started, but you can always see the pin at the top and you will be able to see all of that. All right. So this is the email deliverability webinar. The first question is more of a poll and it's a multi-select. For you personally, what makes you open an email? Is it because you know the sender, you know the subject line, and it catches your attention? The preview text, the first line of the email made you really curious? Or you just open all of your emails? You can pick as many or as little answers as you would like. And I'm curious to see what everybody says. All right, we still have some answers coming in. You got about 9 more seconds left. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so majority of you said, I know the sender, then the runner-up is the subject line catches your attention. And then we have a couple that said the preview, the first line of the email caught your attention or made you curious, or a few of you said you open all of your emails. Keep this in mind throughout this webinar and remember this when you are putting yourself in the position of the recipient so that when you are writing emails, keep that in mind. So one quick tip that I will give you is when somebody doesn't know the sender, they will fall back to the subject line. And in the subject line, make sure that it's interesting. That's a little sneak peek that I will give you right now. Because as a recruiter, you are not just competing with other recruiters in the recipient's inbox, you're competing with everything else that is in their inbox. All right, let's go to the actual first one. What open rate should you aim for at the very bare minimum? So when you are sending an outreach campaign or a bulk email, what is the bare minimum open rate that you should be aiming for? Is it 20%, 30%, 40%, or 50%? And we're talking about the bare minimum. And you got quite a bit more time left. For those of you that are answering in the chat, feel free to join the Kahoot. The Kahoot pin game is at the bottom. It's 783623. You can join by going to kahoot.it, so KAHOOT.it. And that way you can join the fun. All right, 30% is the correct answer. Majority of you got that. This will give you an indication that about the 1/3 of your recipients, at the very least, have found it interesting or thought that it would be good to open this email. And that is the ultimate goal. You want to be at least at 30%, if not above. Anything below 30%, it means that it's either not the right recipients, it landed in spam, or it was not really something that caught their attention. All right, we got the first board. We got KB, Chef K, Marty, Ben, and Evie. Let's see how this will change and move on to the next question because we got quite a few of them. This is a multi-select. There's 2 correct answers. Which 2 subject lines are most likely to stand out in a candidate's inbox when you're reaching out to them about a software engineer role? Is it great software engineer opportunity? Debugging your next career move, Control Alt delete your old job, here's a new one, or looking for a software engineer, apply now. There's 2 correct answers, select 2 and then hit submit. And you have about 40 seconds left to cast your votes, make your decisions. Got about 30 more seconds. We still got some answers trickling in. Curious to see what everybody will cast their vote for. Got 10 seconds left. Cast your votes now or hold your peace until the next question. I'm just kidding. All right, awesome, awesome. So this looks like a fairly even spread amongst everything. As a quick reminder, when you are reaching out to candidates or even hiring managers, you're not just competing with other recruiters in their inbox, you're competing against everything that is in their inbox. That is Amazon shipping notifications, random newsletters. And so you want to stand out with something different. I hate to say it, I work with a lot of different recruiters. Every single recruiter, when I look at the outreach campaign, it has either great job opportunity or great insert job title opportunity or looking for a job title, apply now. And so when one candidate receives 5 of those emails, why should they pick one recruiter over the other? So you want to get a little bit more creative. This is where I recommend leveraging AI, but definitely try out different kind of like subject lines. And the 2 correct ones that are more likely to stand out because they are different are debugging your next career move and Control Alt Delete your job. Here's a new one. All right. Woo, Hick, you jumped up 56 places. Good job. And yeah, the board is rearranging itself. I'm really curious to see how this will keep playing out. All right, next one, another multi-select. 2 correct answers. Which 2 subject lines are most likely to stand out in a hiring manager's inbox about a finance manager that you're looking to pitch to them? Is it looking for a finance manager? Need to hire a finance manager? Let's talk. Is it your next finance manager in 10 days or less? Or quick note on finance hiring trends in XYZ industry? You got about 40 seconds left. There's 2 correct answers. Got less than 30 seconds left. And this would be for business development type outreach. We got about 10 more seconds left to pick the answers. All right. You guys are such fast learners. I love it. Yes, it is your next finance manager in 10 days or less, or quick note on finance hiring trends in XYZ industry. The reason why those are a little bit better than the others is because hiring managers, they have a problem. The problem is they have a vacant role that they need to fill. It's costing them money not to have that one. So if you can touch on solving that pain problem that they have in their subject line, you're going to grab their attention much more easily and better than need to hire a finance manager. Hiring managers, especially if they have an open rec, they get bombarded with emails. So again, this is where you're not just competing against other recruiters, you're also competing against all of their internal emails that they have. You need to stand out and be memorable somehow. This is subject lines that are very unique are a great way to do that. All right, 25 of you have answered the last 3 questions correctly. And Chef K, I guess, is leading this one. But we have a couple of really close ones, so I'm curious to see how this will keep shuffling, rearranging, and changing itself. Another multi-select, which 2 first lines are most likely to grab the attention in the inbox preview? So whenever you're looking at your emails, you see the first line as a preview. There's 2 that are more likely to catch somebody's attention than the other one. So the 4 options, 2 of which are correct, are, you know that feeling when you see a job and think, that's me? Or is it, I hope you're doing well? Is it not another, are you hiring email? I actually have something useful. Or is it, we help companies like yours find top talent? A little hint, one candidate facing response is correct and one hiring manager facing response is correct. And you got about 20 more seconds to pick 2 correct answers. And 10 seconds. I'm really tempted to like insert the it's the final countdown, but anyways. All right, yes, It is, you know that feeling when you see a job and think that's me, along with not another are you hiring email. I actually have something useful. And the reason why those two work and the others, such as I hope you're doing well, or we help companies like yours find top talent, most of the time when recruiters are reaching out to candidates and hiring managers, they don't know you. So remember how the first question was, what makes you open an email? The number one answer was, I know the sender. If you don't know the sender, you are defaulting to looking at the subject line. So that needs to be interesting enough to open along with the email preview. So if you have an absolutely killer subject line, that email preview that your recipients are seeing is really valuable real estate in their inbox. So you want to make sure that you leverage that. And nobody usually cares about the I hope you're doing well part or the we help companies like yours find top talent, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So these are the two that are a little bit more engaging. And let's see. All right, Bill jumped up to the second spot. Chef K is still number one, and 19 of you have answered the last four questions correctly. Awesome. Another multi-select. Why would a candidate decide to change jobs? Select all the possible reasons that apply. Is it money? That could be more pay, better benefits. Is it challenge? They're seeking a new challenge or they kind of want to mellow things out. Is it advancement opportunities or a lack thereof? Maybe they want to grow and advance. Maybe they kind of don't want to and they just want to stay in one place, or maybe even drop down from managing people to not managing people and going back down to being an individual contributor. Is it location? That can be closer office, further away because they want to spend more time in their car, remote or hybrid. People, culture, better boss or a better team, just a different culture, or more job security and stability. Or maybe they're looking for something that is a little bit more risky. Everybody has different preferences, but you have about 40 more seconds to pick the right answers. And there's 6 options. And you get about 30 more seconds, 20 more seconds, 10. All right. It is all of them. These are abbreviated as the CLAMPS, CLAMPS. Those are the 6 motivators that will make somebody change jobs. Any combination of these is going to hit on something that candidates are potentially missing from their current position. You want to touch on all of them throughout your outreach efforts. You don't have to do it all in one go, but ideally you want to touch on all 6 of these when you're reaching out to candidates. And ooh, look at that. Southern Belle came in hot at number 2. Chef K is still at number 1. I think Marty, Kenny, and Lexi haven't moved a spot. But yeah, good job, guys. What should you include in your email to make a candidate interested in a job? Is it a long list of company values and mission statements? Is it a description of why you think it is a great job? Is it the clamps, any or all of the 6 motivators, or a detailed history of the company dating back to 1985 or whenever it was founded? I kind of spoiled the answer with the previous question. Hint, hint. All right, you guys have about 25 more seconds left. Let's see if we get a few more answers in the last 10-ish seconds. I've done this Kahoot with just a 30-second time limit, and a lot of people didn't get their answers in. But the correct answer is clamps. Good job, guys. You guys are fast learners. I'm loving this. Let's see if this made any changes to the board. It did not. All right, you guys are paying attention. I love this. All right, let's go to the next one. What does a good email to a hiring manager focus on? Is it identifying a hiring problem you can solve for them? Is it explaining why you are the best in the industry? Is it asking if they have any open roles you can help them with, or is it a generic message saying, I have great candidates? All right, the answers are coming in fast. I love this. You have 30-ish seconds left, but I think this will actually, once everybody answers, it will just go ahead and show the results and how many people answered. Um, but if people take their time, then it will always take a little bit. All right, 10 seconds. I feel like you guys already know the answer to this one, but let's see. Yes, it's identifying a hiring problem you can solve for them. Hiring managers want to have you solve their problems. So if you are able to communicate that and really say that in an obvious manner in your email, you are going to get their attention much, much more quickly. Something that you can do is usually when you have a job description, the job description actually tells you what problem this position needs to solve for. If you can literally spell it out for them, you'll be rocking and rolling, which leads me to the next multi-select question. Which email content is most likely to engage a hiring manager? I have a candidate with 8 years of Python experience. Is it on average, it takes me 10 days to find, vet, and send over top candidates? My candidate built a payment system that cut processing time by 40%, or we move fast and help companies hire quickly. There's two correct answers on this one. I should have mentioned that. My bad, but it's two correct answers. Got less than 30 seconds to pick two answers. I'll give you a little hint. If you can answer the so what after reading these, that will nudge you towards the right answers. All right. It is on average, it takes me 10 days to find, vet, and send over top candidates, along with my candidate build a payment system that cut processing time by 40%. The reason why these two are the correct ones is because you can actually, you're mentioning the exact problem that this candidate has solved or that your candidates are solving. I know that a lot of you selected, I have a candidate with 8 years of Python experience, but then when you do, okay, so what? Just because a candidate has Python experience doesn't know they actually know how to put it in place and solve the particular problem that hiring manager is trying to solve with that particular hire. These two, the yellow and the blue answer, give that solved problem a little bit more, and that will help you guys. Wow. All right. Marty, Candy, and Lexi jumped up to the top three. Chef K, what is happening? You're down to number 5, but let's keep this moving. We're halfway through. What method approach can you use to show a candidate's value to a hiring manager? Is it bullet points, lots of bullet points? Is it attaching a presentation? Is it throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks? Or is it the STAR method where you describe the situation, the task, the action, and the result that the candidate has taken and presenting that to the hiring manager? You guys have about 40 seconds left. There's only one correct answer. I feel like I made this one really easy for you guys. But let's see. I'm curious to see what the answers will be. Got about 30 seconds. I see some people are spoiling the answers in the chat. We'll see if you guys are right. Or maybe some of you guys are trolling. All right, you guys have 10 more seconds to cast your votes. Usually there's over 180 responses, but we're at 174. All righty, it is the STAR method. Good job, guys. Yes, so usually recruiters will teach the STAR method to candidates for during their interview prep. This is what then shows, this is a method that candidates can use to present themselves during interviews for hiring managers. Recruiters, leverage that in your business development outreach. All right. Reese is back with an answer streak of 3. Good job, guys. Marty is at the top. Which call to action, CTA, is most likely to get a high response rate? The emphasis is on a high response rate. There's only one correct answer. Is it when's a good time to call you? No call to action at all. Is it interested? Let's chat. If not, just say so and I won't bug you again. Or is it let me know if you're interested? I hope the highest response rate. Just keep that in mind. You're trying to catch all the Pokemons. Maybe that was a dead giveaway. Well, we shall see. You guys have 20 seconds left. All right, 10 seconds. Let's see what you guys think is the correct one. Ooh, okay. So when is a good time to call you is not the right one. The reason why is because then only the people that are actually interested will respond to you. You want to get the people that are not interested to respond to you so that you know. Most of the time when you say something like, let me know if you're interested. If not, no hard feelings, just let me know. I'll take you off our email list. People will respond with, I'm not interested, but keep me posted about other jobs. And you can start a conversation about what they actually want. And then you're also gathering a lot of really valuable feedback from the candidate market that you can then present to hiring managers about why the target candidates are not interested in this particular role. And that will also give you some feedback in terms of how you can potentially optimize your outreach and figure out what are the important claims and why are people saying they're happy in their current position? What makes them happy? What is something that would say somebody's unhappy, open to looking for something new? And so the easiest way to do this is to catch all the Pokemons. So that also includes the people that are not interested. This is also really valuable for when a search stalls because of the hiring manager. Then you can give the hiring manager some more data on what the candidate market actually looks like. If you're not getting the I'm not interested for XYZ reasons, then you can't really present that. And then it makes it a little bit harder for you to convince the hiring manager to go with the candidates that you have already presented, because then they have the grass is greener um, syndrome. And obviously, we don't want that. Time is money for recruiters. All right. Marty is at the top. Shefka, you're moving up. Excellent. Lexi, you moved up as well. All right. We got a couple of people that have moved up. And Marina is back with the answer streak of 3. True or false? The response rate shows if you reach the right audience, your content is relevant, and your call to action is effective. True or false? Should be a quick one, but I did give you guys 60 seconds, so let's see. The response rate shows if you have the right audience, the content is relevant, and your call to action is effective. 166 answers. We have about 20 more seconds for the remainders that haven't cast their vote yet. Got about 10 seconds left. All right. Yes, it is true. The response rate will show you whether you have reached the right audience, whether your subject line is engaging, and whether your call to action is actually catching and casting like the wide net. One of the things that contributes whether you are landing in spam or whether you're ending up in the promotions folder is how many people are actually engaging. So the more people that actually respond to you, it communicates to email providers that your emails are what they actually want to see. So they're going to start treating your emails from your domain a little bit differently. All right, Marty's still at the top. Shefke just dropped off the top 5. All right. And 3 is back in the game, I guess. Let's keep it moving. If 100 people receive your email, 30 open it, how many of those 30 should reply to you? 50, half of the recipients should respond. 30, everyone who opens should reply. 5, a low reply rate is normal, or 15, half of the openers should respond. You got about 30 seconds left. 50, 30, 15, or 5. Curious to see what you guys think it is. Where's the option for 100? I didn't want to make it too easy to point out the right answer. All right, it is 15. 5 is not good. That means you are not reaching the right people, your content is not relevant, and your call to action is not speaking to people. You want the highest possible response rate. The bare minimum should be half of your open rate. So if we say the open rate bare minimum should be 30%, then you want to aim for 15 of those to be open. So kind of like half it, if that makes sense. All right, let's see how this impacts the board. All right, Marty is at number 1, Lexi's number 2, then we got Bill, Papi Chulo, and Nolsen. So let's keep it going. How many recipients should you include in each email campaign? Is it 50, just enough to message your mom, your dog, and a few hiring managers? Is it 100 to 300, enough for impact, not enough to trigger spam filters? Is it 1, you got to start somewhere? Or is it 10,000, got to catch them all like Pokemon? So let's see, Joseph, the 30% is the open rate. And whatever your open rate is, you want half of those that have opened your email to respond to you. The minimum for the open rate that you should be aiming for is 30% of the recipients, and then half the people that have opened your email. And we got about 15 seconds left. There's only one correct answer. I feel like most of you know it. We got about 5 seconds. All right, it is 100 to 300. So you don't want to send too many, and obviously you can send 50 if you want to, but most of the time you need to source about 100 to 200 people for your job. So over time you can add 100 to 300 into an outreach campaign. If it's 50 a day, obviously that will add up to anywhere between 100 to 300, but usually recruiters need to source about like 200 people to get a placement. That obviously depends on your niche and all that kind of stuff. And you also need to take a look at how many you are sending out on a regular basis, just because if you have a sudden spike, then that looks suspicious and email providers will kind of like nudge you towards spam or promotions. All right, I do want to have some time for the Q&A, so I'm just going to speed right through this. Marty's still at the top. How many days should you wait before the next email? Is it 7 days, same time next week? Let's make it a weekly tradition. Is it 3 to 5 days? Enough time to avoid annoying people, but stay top of mind. Is it 14 days? Let's give them enough time to digest the last email. Or is it 1 to 2 days? Just keep emailing them every day or two until they respond. You guys have about 30 more seconds left. All right, you guys have about 10 seconds left. Promise we're almost done and we'll get to a Q&A. All right, it is 3 to 5 days. You want to give it some breathing space. You want hiring managers to have some time to digest and realize that they're not getting the right candidates from whichever recruiters they're working with. And for candidates, give them a couple of more, like 3 to 5 days to maybe have a bad meeting, maybe have a bad announcement, maybe have a bad interaction or something like that, and keep it going. So I usually recommend 3 to 5 regular days, not necessarily business days. Sometimes C-suite will check their emails for potential positions on Saturdays and Sundays. So I know some executive search teams that actually know and are able to get a hold of their candidates on Saturdays and Sundays. So keep that in mind. Marty's still at the top. Then we got Lexi, Southern Belle, Mason, and Bill. Two more questions. How many total emails should you send? And that is in an outreach campaign. One, if they don't reply, they're obviously not interested. Unlimited, we stop when they file a restraining order. 5 to 8, just enough to be persistent without being spammy. Or more than 15, got to stay at the top of their inbox. All right. You guys have about 25 more seconds. I still see some answers coming in. All right, 10 more seconds. Let's see if we get a few more answers in. All right, that is correct. 5 to 8. You want to be persistent enough without being too spammy. If you can't get a hold of them after about 8 emails that you spread out over the course of a month or two, or maybe even more, especially for business development outreach where you're kind of like nurturing, developing for searches that should happen a little bit more quickly. 5 to 8, that is kind of like tops. Now keep in mind, as long as you're adding the call to action at the beginning that says, hey, if you're not interested, just let me know. I'll take you off our email list. People will then take themselves out of the process. And then you're just reaching out to the ones that maybe didn't see your email or something like that. So as long as you have a solid call to action, most people or bulk should be responding to your first initial batches so that you're only catching the stragglers towards the end of your outreach. And the scoreboard remains the same. True or false? A/B testing your email outreach is a waste of time. True or false? A/B testing is where you have one stage and you have variant A and variant B, and that way you can test which variant works better. So you can have variant A, you can have variant B, and then you can check on what the response rate is, what the open rate is, and take it from there. I gave you guys a lot of time for this one. All right, you guys have less than 20 seconds left. Let's see if we get a few more answers in. The last one was at 160. Let's see if we lost someone. All righty. Alrighty, false. A/B testing is a really good idea. What I actually recommend is whatever takeaways you got from today's session, do variant A with your normal typical emails, and then do variant B with what you learned from here. And that way you can compare and contrast what works. Usually you just need to figure out what your voice is, what works best for you. There's a couple of different ones and things that you can try. And then last one is a poll. Why did the recruiter's email go to spam? They used too many exclamation points. The subject line looked like a phishing scam. They sent 10,000 emails at once, or because email deliverability is a mystery Sherlock Holmes couldn't solve either. This is more of a fun question. There's no right or wrong answer. So you're not going to lose any points on this one. Dun, dun, dun. All right, you guys have 30 more seconds to pick a random answer. And we almost have everybody respond. Let's see. I'll give you guys a few more seconds. And if I don't see it, I'll skip ahead so that we can jump to the Q&A. All right. There we go. There's no right or wrong answer. This was more so of a fun one, but exclamation points can trigger spam triggers. So can a sudden spike in emails and things like that. So let's take a look at the podium. All right, in third place, we got Southern Belle. Congratulations. In second place, we got Lexi. And in first place, drum roll, we got Marty. Congrats, guys. Hope this was helpful. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and we can jump into a Q&A. Let's see. Ladies, did you pick up any questions that were good in the chat that you want me to start with?
Mabir, are you ready to take over there?
Yes, let me unmute myself, the classic. Yeah, I think Viv, lots of people loved your gifts, so definitely mentioned throughout the chat, which is great to see. And congratulations to Martin in the chat is also popping off about that. So one of the questions that came through was with this amazing Kahoot that you put together, the quiz, where was a lot of that data from? And in a way, because I think people are like, would this also work in different locations? And yeah, areas that they're working in.
Yeah. So there were a couple of customers that were really struggling with email deliverability. So I worked with them on turning things around. And so they were the ones that were trying all of this out. In my past life before I joined Loxo, I was a recruiter. I was using all of this and I had killer response rates and made some amazing and hard to fill placements because I just had unconventional ways of doing things. So it's a mix of general best practices that we know from a couple of different vendors. So HubSpot has an email deliverability series, so does Mailgun, SendGrid, things like that, and just sales type best practices and marketing and kind of what people use for newsletter. So it's a combination of different data sources that are just like smushed together into this Kahoot.
Yeah, perfect. And I think, when you've actually been a recruiter yourself, it adds so much value into understanding and speaking that same language. So there's some questions as well in the Q&A. I know loads of questions have just come through into the chat. If you guys can put them into the Q&A section, it's just to the right of the kind of middle bottom panel. It just means that we can really easily tick the ones that we've answered off. So that'd be really helpful. Okay, so I think you've covered this today, but there was a question at the very start of the webinar, and it might be worth doing a quick summary of what are the general steps to take if you find yourself on spam or blacklisted.
So the number one thing I would say is simplify your signature. A lot of signatures have a lot of links and pictures in them. Simplify it, take all of that out. The more stuff that is junky is in there, that will start putting you into spam. That's number one. Don't send any links, don't send any attachments. Keep your signature very simple, just your name, your company, hyperlink your LinkedIn profile so that people can verify you're a legit person, not just like a scammer. That does exist, unfortunately. And then do include a solid call to action where people can say, I'm not interested. Just getting those responses is going to help with improving your deliverability and getting you out of getting out of spam. Keep in mind, it's going to take about like 1 to 2 months of consistently good email behavior to get out of spam. Once you get into spam, it's going to take some consistent good practices to get out of it because you're essentially rebuilding trust with email providers. So give it some time, be consistent, you'll get there.
Yeah, it's about consistency for sure, and understanding your candidates and your hiring managers the most as well. Okay, so we have I think a slightly more technical question, but just about the preview of what an email looks like. So the question is from Roxy, and they've asked, do we get to create the preview text in Loxo Outreach, or is it just the first sentences of our email? And I think
It is just the first sentence of your email. Love that question. So the preview is always the first part of your email. So make sure that it's relevant because that is just valuable real estate that you can capture. Please don't waste it on stuff like I hope you're doing well. I hate to say it, nobody cares about that part of the email unless they already know you and you're really just checking in. So skip all of that, get right to the point.
Yeah, for sure. I've recently moved into marketing, and the amount of emails I'm getting, and so many say, hope you're doing well. And I'm like, I don't recognize your name. It's deleted. Yeah, so we all do it ourselves as well. Jennifer has asked, at what point are we going to talk about how to prevent emails from going into spam? And I think spam is such a big topic and it affects nearly every email role sales. And if we could summarize top tips on what you do when you're in spam and how to get out of it, and also which you kind of done already with the email signature, but also how to avoid getting into that in the first place.
So what gets you into spam is if people report you as spam. And so if you target the right people, you get their attention, you get them to engage back with you, that is your ultimate goal. If you have the option to add an unsubscribe link in Loxa, we have that. You can check that out in your settings. That will help people actually click on unsubscribe as opposed to sending you to spam. If you don't have the call to action that says, let me know if you're not interested, no big deal, and you don't have an unsubscribe link, if you keep sending emails to them, people don't know what else to do to get rid of you than to just click on send to spam. They don't want to respond to you to say, leave me alone, unless you actually give them that call to action. So give them the call to action to let you know that they're not interested. And that way you can just get them out of your way, you can get them out of your database, and that way you're not bugging people that don't want to hear from you, because unless they tell you, you don't know that, and that can contribute to getting into spam. So email best practices and making sure that you're targeting the right people, your content is different, stands out, and gets engagement. Those are the #1 ways to make sure that you don't end up in spam.
Yeah, fantastic. A few more have come in around spam. So hopefully, that in-depth answer resolves and answers their questions. So one of them was, how can you avoid having your email campaigns ending up in spam, which is exactly what you said, have the unsubscribe link there, and ensure that you're actually reaching out to people who care about what you have to say, which is great. Another one's come through saying, I recently found out that my emails are landing in spam after a year on lock. So now I think this is a really good, meaty question to get into. And it's basically saying, how do you fix this issue so that emails are not considered spam or promotional? But I'd actually like to dig into the fact that it's through Loxo. So why there is some people I know have said in the chat as well, when I'm sending through Loxo, it's going to spam, and when I'm not sending through Loxo, it's fine. Can we dig into that and help explain and kind of educate on what's going on there?
There's a couple of different things that can influence that, and it's really a case-by-case situation. A lot of times what I end up seeing is that around this time last year, actually not around this time, but I think it was March 2024 when Google and Yahoo got really strict with email sending policies. As of this year, Microsoft has followed suit with those best practices and is actually stricter than Gmail and Yahoo. So a lot of times what people previously used to do, especially during the times of pandemic when everything kind of moved to virtual, including emails, people started bombarding and kind of, I hate to say it, guys, I love you, don't rip my head off. People got really lazy when it comes to like good email content. And so what ended up happening is everybody was getting responses even though the content was bad. So everybody moved into email. So now people are getting flooded with emails and all of that fun stuff, and it's just not relevant. Nothing is standing out, and people are getting tired, so they're clicking on spam to get rid of stuff. And so there's a couple of different things that can impact that. There's technical aspects to it, there's behavioral stuff to it, there's content. Take a look at your sending activity and reports. Do an activity report for all of your outgoing emails. Your bar needs to be as consistent as possible. If you have a lot of spikes and dips, I have a couple of customers that love sending emails just on Mondays. And so they have a spike on Mondays and then it dips down drastically. What email providers are looking for is consistency. There's a couple of different things that can impact that. We have an in-depth, incredible Help Center article about all things email deliverability, and a podcast that I did with Will Spengler from Frederick Fox. He got himself out of an email deliverability hole. So check those out and we can send those in the follow-up to this.
Yeah, it's spot on. And this question I'm actually going to mention is from Daniel Hickman, who's saying, so aiming for 100 to 300 emails per campaign, but how many per day from one domain? And that's exactly what you just said there, which is just be consistent. Kind of 10% each day increase is what I know that we used to say when I was working the support team. And just trying to make it like seem and just be real. If you couldn't send that many emails out manually by just sitting at your laptop, because no one sends 10,000 emails out a day, then there's gonna be a flag of that you're being kind of automated and it's not kind of real human behavior, if I'm right in saying. So
Yeah. You want to take a look at what your sending activity is. And so if you are currently already sending 10,000 a day because you have a very large team, then obviously 100 to 200 per day, that's not a big deal. If you are just getting started, start with about 50 per day and then work your way up in 10% increments day over day. And don't neglect Saturdays and Sundays. I used to love sending an email Sunday nights around like 5 p.m. I set it and I was like, hey, if you're dreading going into work tomorrow, give me a shout. I can help you.
Yeah, which is great. It's doing it in a different way and like kind of looking at the fact that your recipients are humans and not just people who are sat at their desk. They're living and probably, yeah, checking their emails when they're ready to get well, they're getting ready for Monday. So on that same note, well, kind of slight segue actually, is a question from Nicole, and this is kind of talking about domains. So she says, does your deliverability get affected by others on your team and their results?
Yes, it does, because your domain is essentially the identifier that people, not people, that email providers use to figure out whether you are a trusted sender or not so much. So if somebody else on your team is doing bad shenanigans in terms of emails, that will have an impact on the rest of the team. So having email best practices in place across the team, across your company is going to be super, super helpful.
100%. And that's what also conversations from new starters who've joined your company are so important, all the way up to kind of a C-suite level. It's definitely going to affect everyone if it goes wrong. Um, oh, a nice question here is I'd like to play this quiz with my team. Can we reuse this quiz? Is this something that you're keeping to yourself, Viv, or is this something we can share out?
I can make this one shareable, and I would have to play around with Kahoot. I haven't shared one before, but I can do that one and share it, and you guys can use it.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. I think this engagement and this quiz went down really well. So it's great to see all these questions coming in post quiz as well. Right. Okay. So there's actually so many more questions. Okay. Well, this one we've just answered. Sorry. It's saying, is deliverability a single user issue or a company-wide issue? Can one person at a company be sending 10,000 emails will it affect others? Yes, it will. Um, Did I hear you correctly that it is okay to, at a minimum, include a link to your LinkedIn profile? I think they're talking about their
Yes.
signature or their body. Yeah.
Yes. So this is regarding links and content in your emails. So if you have more than 5 links in total, whether that is hyperlinked or you're just copying and pasting the link, more than 5 links usually start getting you into like weird territory. I usually recommend that you just have your LinkedIn in your signature and your company's website, just so that people can check and double and make sure that you are legit. I would recommend skipping all of the fancy signature graphics and pretty stuff. That's not usually helpful, especially if you're trying to get yourself out of an email deliverability hole. And then you can add a third one that is like a Calendly to for scheduling purposes. But if you're really trying to get out of spam and improve your deliverability, I would skip the Calendly link and have people respond to you to schedule something with you. Email providers don't recognize you scheduling something via a third-party tool like Calendly, Zoom scheduling, Google Scheduler. It doesn't recognize that as a response. If you want to get out of spam and you're in a deliverability kind of like black hole, you want people to be responding to you, I would skip the Calendly link until your deliverability improves. But if
Mhm.
your deliverability is good, send your Calendly link, make your life a million times easier for sure.
Yeah. I also find it that whenever someone does email me and they've got so much in their signature and that they won this award in 2023, I'm not looking at it. Like if you just had one link to your LinkedIn profile, I'm more likely to click on it than 6 or even like 4 links. It's just a lot. So I think always think about how you yourself are receiving emails and what you liked about it and what you didn't like about it, why you clicked on some and why you didn't click on others. And that kind of leads us nicely into one of the questions, which is a very broad question, and there's going to be probably a bit of a broad answer, which is from Brittany, who said, what email strategies are working best right now for engaging candidates and potential clients? Which is like the magic question, right?
So it's basically what we covered in the entire Kahoot, but essentially for candidates, you want to touch on the 6 motivators throughout your campaign. You want to have a very clear call to action so that you're getting those responses. And when you're getting those responses, especially the not interested ones, that is such valuable feedback where you can then adjust what people are looking for. You can provide that feedback with hiring managers. I used to love hearing why people are not interested because it told me what I should be focusing on in my outreach, what I should be trying instead. So even though I would spend one whole day sourcing about 200 to 300 different people, I would only send out about 50 per day just so that I could get that feedback and then potentially adjust the way that I'm communicating with candidates to maybe better hit what it is that they're looking for that would actually engage them. So keep the clamps, the 6 motivators in mind when reaching out to candidates. with hiring managers, basically be very, very obvious about the problem that you can solve. So one of the examples in the Kahoot today was I have a candidate that has 6 years of experience with Python that does really solve the problem that the hiring manager is trying to solve by hiring this person. But if you could give the result that candidate did, what did they do with those 6 years of Python experience? What was the positive impact and the result that they had? Give that to them. The job description, almost always, I have not seen a job description that didn't do this. It will always tell you, this is the problem that I, as a hiring manager, have. I need this new hire to solve these problems, deliver these results. If you can focus in your business development outreach on that, that will help things tremendously.
For sure. And it's also then being consistent with that. So yes, you've checked who's unsubscribed, which was actually one of the questions we can go into, but then are you checking it weekly? Are you checking it every 6 months? You need to get into that kind of habit as well, I think. So the question was from Jennifer, I think it was. Or maybe I'm lying. I'm getting mixed up with all these names now. It was basically, from Jessie, sorry. How do we know if they have clicked on the unsubscribe link? And I guess we can make that relevant to Loxo.
Yeah, so Noxa tracks it automatically, and then if you reach back out to them, it will say it didn't get through because they unsubscribed. So when you're going to your outreach campaign, and it says not delivered, you can filter by that. You can hover over the reason, and we actually built it in, and it will tell you that that they unsubscribed. That's the quickest way. If they've unsubscribed, Loxa will prevent emails from going out to them.
Yes, amazing. I think we probably have something like that. Explaining that on our help center as well, that we can link into this chat. Paula has very sweetly asked, does it help to email people one by one?
It's a really tough question. If you are hyper personalizing it, maybe, but what I would say in the initial outreach, it's not that good of a use of your time. If you are absolutely in an email deliverability hole, that might make sense. But I would try to be a little bit more engaging with subject lines, because even if your content is still not good, if your emails are not good, doing it one by one is not going to make a difference. It's usually more so about the content, what gets people's attentions, and you can do that at scale as well. So it doesn't make that big of a difference. And then you have to kind of look at the ROI. You're investing a lot of time on one-to-one outreach. What's the ROI on you doing it one by one versus spending a little bit more time crafting a really good email sequence and then putting 50 people in at that particular day?
And on the subject of subject lines, lol, Dylan's asked, and I think a few other people asked as well, is do symbols in your subject line hurt the open rate? So we're talking like $signs, @signs, exclamation marks, dashes, those sorts of things.
If you do too many of those, yes. If you just have like one, it usually does not.
Yeah, I think again, it's talking when you see spam emails, addresses even, sometimes they have random symbols, and then you think that's how I always know, right? This is not a real. I had an email from Boots yesterday saying that I won a prize. I was like, I don't even go to Boots. But there you go. Anyway, are there any proven stats on which days and times are best to send emails? I know you kind of touched on Sunday evening was great for you. Anything else to add to that?
This is where knowing your audience is really good. So for example, if you're recruiting people that work in the New York metro area, a lot of them are probably spending an hour or so commuting. So very early in the morning, after work hours, that's probably the best time to catch them. They're on their phone on public transport checking that. If you are reaching out to people that work in labs or in a manufacturing setting, odds are they're not checking their phone throughout the day. Schedule it for after hours or before. If you're recruiting people that work in the office during the day, then it makes sense to do it during office hours. They're probably checking and things like that. So it really depends on your audience and knowing them. This is where it helps to get those not interested, because then you can see what times are people responding, when are they coming in. You're getting a whole lot more data from that.
Amazing. And I know there's a few more questions, but we also are on the hour, as I said it. So we are going to have to wrap this up. I don't know if Sandra, you want to add any final words?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering those questions.
I just wanted to give a big thanks to everyone for coming today. Bye, everyone.
Thanks everybody for joining. Hope this was helpful. Bye everybody.